Hey everyone, my name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. This is our third and last episode of the Do Hard Things series, and I'm going to be talking about my random events. I've talked about mountain climbing, and I've talked about running a marathon, and these next few events that I've done I couldn't put them into a box of like what these are, but they were really good for me. And they kind of, they built on my experience in mountain climbing and doing, big expedition style events. And they built on my endurance training of doing a marathon. And the three events I did, and there were multiple types of these events. One were adventure races. If you're not familiar with adventure races, it is a multiple sport event that is done out in the woods, and usually like a state park of some sort. And there's orienteering function, meaning they don't tell you, like there's no flags telling you where the course is. They give you a map, they give you a compass, and they give you checkpoints. And then you have a certain amount of time to go and find the checkpoints based on, and some of them are going to be like, you're going to have to canoe or kayak to a certain checkpoint. So there's water involved, and they don't tell you. There's no map saying, hey, it's over here, or there's a map. There's no flags. So you look at a map, you look at your compass, and you go, okay, we're starting here, and we have to hit all these spots. And you can do them in any order you want, usually. Then you get off your canoe or your kayak, you get on your mountain bike, and you do the same thing. They're going to give you a map, and they're going to tell you there's 4 checkpoints. Sometimes you have to hit them in sequence. Sometimes you can just hit them however you want. So you're going to do this mountain biking course or road biking course. Then you get back, and then usually there's a land navigation portion. And this one, usually the way it works, they might have 20 or 30 checkpoints out in the woods where you have to go and punch your card. And you don't have to get all of them, but there's different lengths of races. There's 4, 6, 12, and then multi-day, like 24-hour races, or even like 15-day races. I was involved. I was a paramedic on the medical team for the Patagonia expedition race. And I think the total was like 15 days of between pre-race and post-race, but these people were outside for 12 days racing. So it's a big expedition race. But they had these shorter races. And then, so when you do the land navigation section, so let's say it's a 12-hour race, whoever has the most checkpoints at the quickest, as long as they come in under 12 hours. So let's say I'm racing you, and we go out there, and I find 13 checkpoints, and I'm back in 10 hours. You find 14 checkpoints, and you're there 1 minute before the 12-hour time period is up. You win because you got more checkpoints. So basically, whoever gets the most checkpoints in the least amount of time wins. Very challenging. I like it because it's not like when I ran the marathon, you get on the road, you follow the other people, and you do the route, and there's no thinking. You just have to go. There's a ton of thinking. There's a ton of strategy. Do you try to be fast and get the closest checkpoints and get back sooner, assuming that people aren't going to be able to get as many, or you try to get every checkpoint and try to cut it close? There's you have to be good at canoeing or kayaking. You have to be good at mountain biking, and it all plays in. Very enjoyable experience. If you want to do something endurance wise, it's usually team based. I know they have some individuals. I don't think it would be as much fun, but it's a team, and there's not too many endurance events where you're a part of a team. And that was cool. Everyone I did was a team of 2. And so me and one of my buddies went out into the woods, and we got lost, and we got, we took some time. I've never won, but I have always had fun doing it. So if you want a team event, you want something that mentally you have to figure out. And then the other benefit of that is it allows you to, when you're training, you can actually train with skills, not just pure physical endurance. It's not like I'm just going to go for a bike ride down and back. You got to train with a map. You got to train with a compass. I thought it was very enjoyable. So if you're looking for an event that's not normal, that's not just your normal 5K, an adventure race is usually a really good time. I say usually because parts of it are not, like, going through picker bushes and things like that. But, we're talking about doing hard things, and a little bit of misery, I think, is a part of doing hard things. So adventure races is something I've enjoyed. I've done maybe 4 or 5 adventure races. Go check them out. They're a lot of fun. The next event I did, and it's multiple types of events, is the GoRuck Challenge. The GoRuck Challenge, there's a company called GoRuck. They started with a special forces guy who wanted to make a go bag. A go bag is a bag that you keep packed in case of an emergency. For the military, it'd be like, the base gets overrun. You got to grab a bag. It's got everything you need in it. So he made these bags, these GoRuck bags, which were very expensive, rucksacks. And he's like, how do I sell them? Well, let's do events that are based on Special Forces training. And I'll show you how tough these backpacks are because we're going to put you through the ringer. And the first one I did was in Indianapolis. It's a 12-hour event, and it was extremely hard. It was one of the harder things I've done. You do it throughout the night. It's scenario-based. So our scenario was this helicopter crashed in a river, and we had to go and get the pilots out. Well, unfortunately, the pilot and co-pilot had been bitten by zombies, and they were going to turn into zombies if we didn't get them the antidote. And so we find them we had to go to the river, and, before you start, there's a welcome party, which is just a bunch of PT, push-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, bear crawls. They just kind of wear you out. They call it a smoke session or welcome party, where they get you tired, they get you a little frustrated, and then they get you to work together as a team when you're tired and frustrated. It's team building. There was probably 20 or 30 of us. Like, all right, we did the welcome party, and then we took off towards the downed, pilots. When we get to the river, we find that the pilots are actually these big giant logs that we pick up, and we have to take them to the hospital. And over the course of the next 5 or 6 hours, we carried giant logs throughout the city of Indianapolis in the middle of the night to do, just multiple events, lifting log PT where you're moving it around, just moving the log. It was hard. We finally got them to the hospital, which was another part of the river. We dumped the logs back in the river, and then we had to bring water to people. So we filled up 5-gallon buckets that we had to find in a park. It was very unique. It was very different than anything I've done. It is team-based. You can't win the GoRuck challenge. You just finish the GoRuck challenge. There's no winning. And it was cool. I mean, it was harder than one of the hardest things I've done physically. And if you've been listening to the series, I've done some hard things, and this was challenging. And the whole time you're carrying a backpack, and at the time you had to have 6 bricks. That was the weight. So if you weighed over 150 pounds, you had 6 bricks. If you weighed under 150 pounds, you had 4 bricks. Now they've changed it to weight. Most of the time, guys are carrying steel plates. If you're over 150, I think it's 30 pounds. If you're under, it's 20. And GoRuck they've expanded and done a lot of different things. Now they change the names all the time, but it's like the basic, which is 4 hours, the light, which is 6, the tough, I think they call it, which is 12 hours. Then they had the heavy, which is a 24-hour event. So I did the GoRuck challenge in Indianapolis, and I liked it. I don't want to say I got addicted, but I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to do something else. So about a year and a half later, it might have been 2 years later, I had decided to do, there was a weekend in Detroit, and they had 4 events going on consecutively. They had the heavy, the challenge, the light, and scavenger. So HCLS, that's what they called the HCLS. And we had to, we showed up to a park, and it's we started with the 24-hour challenge. Now you signed up for them individually. So you could complete the heavy, and you got a bat. And then when you're done, you get a patch, which is, they're saying is it's always earned, it's never given. So you get a heavy patch, then you get the challenge patch. So about 25 of us showed up for the heavy. And the heavy starts with an assessment section where you have to do so many push-ups, so many sit-ups. And at the time, we actually did pull-ups. And they weigh your bag, and then they send you on a 12-mile ruck. You do a 12-hour ruck, and you come back. Now, there's no hard time for this, where there's some other events where if you fail the selection section, the assessment section, you don't compete. This one was more of do your best, try to meet these standards. Like a 12-mile ruck should take you roughly 3 hours. So you're pushing yourself to get through. We did the heavy, and if I thought the one in Indianapolis 12 hours was hard, this one was double, more than double, probably triple hard. But man, what a great experience. It's been years, maybe 7, 8 years since I did that. And we have a Facebook group, and we still talk back and forth. We still tag each other. Like, you get really close with these people. You're lifting these huge logs. You're picking people up. You're dragging them. We simulate people getting injured, so now you're holding them. There's a team weight that you always carry with you. The cadre is what they call the people that are running it. They're all special forces. Most of them are retired. They just put you through some really hard things, and it's a growing experience. Just when you think things it couldn't be any harder, they make them harder. We were carrying a log and it wasn't allowed to touch the ground. Well, we were going up a hill and the front of the log touched the hill as we're going up because we were just a little too far away. And they asked us if it had touched the ground. And all of us said, no, it hadn't, not thinking that the hill was the ground. And because we didn't have integrity, they found the largest log that I've ever seen. Like they cut down a sequoia, I feel like, and we picked it up and they called it integrity. And we carried that thing for another 5 or 6 hours and it was crushing us, like just absolutely crushing us. But we persevered. I got a shirt with the log on the back and people carrying it. It was a great experience. And then we were done with the 24-hour event. We finished. We got in a van and we drove to downtown Detroit. And 5 hours later, minimal sleep. We fell asleep on the way there. Whoever wasn't driving, we ate some food and we started the 12-hour event. And it was cool. Like and there was only, I think 12 of us that were going to do all 3 events. So we did this and I was doing it with a buddy. So 12 of us get into this bigger group. Now there's like 30 or 40 that are going to do the 12-hour event. And it was like cool. Cause like we were like this family, like we had just done something so epic. And these new guys, right? They're looking at us like, wow, you guys like in awe because we were all zombies. We hadn't slept in 24 hours and we're getting ready to do 12 more hours. And so we started the challenge and we did the welcome party again. And it was really challenging. One of the guys I hope to have on the show is Patrick. Patrick was literally sleeping. I mean, his eyes are closed. He's probably, and he's walking with this log. I'm like, I've never seen anything like that. And he ended up going on to complete the GoRuck selection, which is their hardest event. And again, hopefully we'll have him on here. You can tell about that, but it was just epic. Like, again, just extremely hard, carrying logs all over Detroit, going to Belle Isle, doing some crazy things. And then that was done. We had a couple hours and we started the GoRuck Light, which was like a 5 or 6 hour event. I had another friend coming to meet me, which was very helpful to have encouragement. So we did another 6 hours. Then I went home for 10 hours. And so I actually got to sleep. I came back to Detroit for a scavenger hunt and I finished. Man, it was cool. It was hard. It's up there with the hardest things I've done. And, I would do it again. It really changed my outlook on what I could physically do. Like it was that hard and none of it, when you guys are doing this, none of it, like one thing by itself is that hard. It's all doable. You all have the ability to do it. But when you add it up, it seems impossible, which is a great life lesson because what you need to do is just do what's in front of you. Everything that was in front of me, I could do. I could hold this log and take one more step. Now, I didn't think I could take 3 hours worth of steps, but I didn't have to. I just had to take the next one. And I think that's what doing hard things teaches you, is that sometimes when you're in the middle of the hardest part, if you try to look ahead, you will fail because it is too hard to do for 3 hours. You can't carry this massive sequoia log on your shoulder for 3 hours. There's no way, but you can carry it for 1 more minute. And then you can do it 1 more minute. And then 3 hours go by and you have carried this giant log. And when they finally let you set it down and you look at everybody that's around you and you realize what you just did, it is such an empowering moment. And that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. I want you to have these empowering moments, which you don't get at work. Usually you don't get these in normal day-to-day life. Life is not that hard for us anymore. We have to go out and seek that. I want you guys to go out and seek hard. Do hard things. It will change you for the better. It will change when you're having a bad day at work. It can't be as bad as what GoRuck was. It can't be that bad. It can't be as bad as carrying a log for 3 hours. It can't be as bad as dragging your buddy up a sandy hill. It can't be as bad. I always think that we operate best when we're at the middle of our ability. So we have super easy, we have sleeping. Then we have the hardest thing we've ever done. And we operate the best at our middle. And the way to become a better, more successful person, a person who's able to overcome, more amazing things, is we have to move our middle. Well, we can't make easier, right? Sleeping is always going to be sleeping. It's always easy. It's always fun. And this is the middle. This is the hardest thing you've ever done. If you move a little bit further over here, then the middle is now where your hardest thing was. And when people seek comfort, when they seek ease, their middle is such a small area. And as soon as they get outside of that, life feels like it's falling apart. I mean, you go run a marathon, you go climb a mountain, you go, do something physically hard like the GoRuck challenge. You move your hardest thing ever so far away that your middle is now what most people would consider the hardest thing in the world. If you've ever met a mom that had a bunch of kids, you can't face her, right? her hardest thing she's ever done, raise 4 kids under 4, 6 kids. You can't, nothing's going to stress her out, right? Because she's done hard things. And that's what I want for you, because I want you to do hard things. The last event that I've done that has been hard is a Tough Mudder. I've done, I don't know, I think I'm at number 10 now, maybe, of the shorter events, but I've done 2 world's toughest mudders. And a couple cool things that I did. One was in Atlanta, I did my first world's toughest. And if you're not familiar, a Tough Mudder is usually 10 to 12 miles, and they're obstacle courses, and it's a lot of fun. If you have a little bit of endurance ability, they're not impossible, but they are hard. They're always hard. They're always muddy. They're always fun. Well, I decided I'm going to do a world's toughest. And the world's toughest is a 5-mile course, around 5 miles, 20 to 25 obstacles inside that 5 miles. And you do as many 5-mile loops as you can inside of 24 hours. You actually have 25 and a half hours. You have to start your last lap inside of 24 hours, and you have an hour and a half to finish it. And I went to Atlanta for my first one, and I had a goal of 50 miles. And a couple cool things about this is, one, I brought my daughter, Matilda, and I brought my mom to be my pit crew. So you have this pit crew like a race crew. So you bring your car and change your tires. This is, you bring yourself in. They might change clothes, feed you, because at hour 10, 12, 13, you're kind of out of it and you need help. So I had my pit crew. My daughter got to see me do hard things, which I think is another important thing to do, is when you are doing these things, let your family see it. Let your family see that it's okay to struggle. Let your family see that you're going to get down and dirty and just like go to work. And my daughter got to see that. I thought that was pretty cool. So I attempted the Tough Mudder, and going back to the GoRuck challenge, I am on my first lap. I finished my first lap. I'm running up the hill for my second lap, and I look over and I see a guy from GoRuck. I see the guy from my heavy challenge, heavy HCLS. I'm like, "Hey, Sean, how are you doing?" And we started talking. I'm like, you here by yourself? He's like, "Yeah, I'm by myself." We ran the next 45 miles together. It was awesome. So we do this, and it's Atlanta, and I knew it could be cold. It was November. I wasn't expecting, it got 28 degrees. They had to shut down obstacles because the water froze on the obstacles. It was literally blocks of ice, super cold. And I actually failed at this. I failed my goal. I wanted 50 miles and I got 45. And, if you're going to do hard things, you're going to fail. And in my life, I've been very blessed to not fail very much. I set my mind to something and I've been very successful, and it's a good thing. I think that's how you know you've done something hard, is if you have the ability to fail. There's 2 criteria to know if it's too hard. If you start something and within 10 minutes, you think this was a terrible idea, this is way too hard, it might be too hard. It might have been something that you shouldn't have tried. I tried to run I signed up for a 24-hour running race, and I hadn't been running very much. That was too hard. I wasn't quite ready for that. And, but like the Tough Mudder, 5, 10, 15 hours into it, that's when I thought maybe this is a bad idea. That's how you know. So if you can get halfway in before you think it's a bad idea, that's a good indicator that you're at the right level of hardness. And the other indicator of whether this is truly a hard thing is, can you fail? If the answer is yes, you can fail, then it's probably hard enough. And so I wanted 50 miles and I got 45. I didn't quite make it, but I had a great experience. It was awesome being with my mom and my daughter. It was a cool run with Sean. It was a good experience. I didn't get what I wanted, but I did hard things. Fast forward 2 years later, I do the Tough Mudder again, the world's toughest, but this time it was a new experience. I did that with my mom. My mom, who was in her 60s, really wanted to run this race. So we went down to Alabama, coastal Alabama, and we did it. Now this time I reached my goal, but my goal was just to go with my mom. Whatever she was going to do, I was going to do. She ended up getting 20 miles or 25 miles. I did 35. What a great experience. I got to go out on a course for 24 hours with my, I won't tell exactly how old she was, but in her 60s, 60-year-old mom. Great experience. I did hard things, and, doing these things with people, and that's kind of this last group was doing hard things with people, right? It didn't really fall into a category, adventure racing, GoRuck challenges, Tough Mudders, Spartan races. It's with people. It's a community, and that is a very special place. Of all the things I've done, those were one of the more enjoyable hard things because I got to do it with somebody else. If you guys are looking for someone to do something with, to plan something with, I want you to reach out to me. I really, I've been making an effort to connect with the guys that are listening to this show because I want to help you do hard things. I will leave my connection or my contact information in the show notes. Reach out. If you have a goal, a dream to accomplish something in the next 6 months to a year, I want to help you. Let's go on a journey together where I hold you accountable and we really push towards that journey, push towards that goal and get you to where you need to be. Because that's what this life is about. It's about setting goals and doing things, taking action, earning your title every day. I want you guys to do that. So go out and do hard things. Go out and earn your title.